choice between two or more bad options. And sometimes life feels like it's only one option, and that option is a bad one. And we wonder in those moments, what do we do when we're faced with bad options? Do we give in to the lesser of two evils? Do we stay stuck and not choose either? What do you do when life doesn't give you any good options? What do you do when the options placed before you are none that you would choose if you had all of the resources in front? What do you do when what you have in front of you is nothing that you want to work? What do you do when life does not give you good options? Well, I believe Jesus tells a parable here to help me and to help you know what to do when you're faced with a situation where you don't have any good options. I think Jesus is keeping it real with us and breaking it down for us, and Jesus is getting practical with us when he tells this parable. Jesus is taking the stuff off of the top shelf and putting it where we can reach. Jesus is breaking this down for us. Jesus is sitting down next to us and saying, I understand what life is like. And so let me give you some practical tools. Let me talk to you in a regular language so you can understand this stuff on Monday, and you can understand this on Wednesday. And when stuff happens to you on Thursday, you can look back at this parable and know what to do when you don't have good options.
Well,
see, it's the most disturbing parable, but now it's one of my favorite parables.
Well,
it's a very disturbing parable, but now it's one of my favorite parables. It's disturbing because the main character in the story, he just ain't right. I mean, come on, the main character in the story isn't right. He's shady. He's doing some underhanded stuff. He's doing some illegal stuff. And he's guilty of a few things that could get him locked up today.
Well,
come on now, he is guilty of some stuff that if it happened in 2016, he might have to tell Bernie Madoff to move around because I need to come next to you.
well,
He is doing some stuff, and this is a confusing parable because not only is the main character not right, but he is applauded for his not rightness. He is being commended for stuff that we know is illegal. I mean, this guy is guilty of fraud and probably forgery. But the person he defrauded gives him props for it. His master, when he finds out about it, actually says, man, that's actually pretty good. He commends him for it. Y'all with me?
yeah.
Oh, come on now. Look at the Bible. This is the Bible we're reading, and these are the words of Jesus. And this story disturbs us because the man in the story, the main man, isn't right, and he's applauded by his boss. But now Jesus says we should learn from this man. The man isn't right.
Well,
his boss says, I see you. I peep your game. Good game. And Jesus says, you should learn something from this man. Y'all with me?
yeah.
Anybody else with me today? You scratching your head wondering, okay, why didn't they take this one out? You got another parable today. But Jesus says you can learn something from this man. And I know it's messing with you because you're reading and rereading it and you're trying to figure out why Jesus would tell this story.
Yes, Lord.
You're wondering how it got in here. And you're wondering, what in the world does this mean? And Jesus is trying to teach us something about life and the living of life. And Jesus wants to help someone sitting in here today dealing with difficulties and challenges. And Jesus wants to help you with what you have to face in life. So he tells a story about a man that ain't right, which goes to show that you can learn from anyone.
Yes, Lord.
Jesus tells a story about someone who is not right, which goes to show us that you can learn from anyone. He's teaching us by using someone we would not look up to show there's something you can learn from anyone.
Yeah.
Heroes and villains, cops and robbers, priests and pimps. You can learn a lesson from anyone.
Yeah.
You can learn a lesson from people that you may not ordinarily look up to, and maybe you might look down at them for the stuff they've done. But Jesus says sometimes it's okay to look at them and learn a lesson from the stuff they're doing.
Amen. Amen.
And humility helps us to be open to learning, while discernment helps us to know what to learn from them. Yeah. You got to be humble enough to learn from everyone, but you got to discern what to learn from that someone. And so Jesus tells this story that I want to grab you into today, that I want you to come with me today, that we can learn from this man. Is somebody ready? Who wants to learn from this man today? Look at his situation. He has a situation you can relate to because he's about to lose his job. And he seemingly has a good job. Thank you, thank you, thank you. He seemingly has a good job. He has oversight over other people. That's a good job. He has control over money. That's a good job. He's a manager. He gets to tell people what to do. He gets to manage the boss's books. He has a good job, but he's about to lose that good job. And he's about to lose some stuff. He's about to get fired due to his own fault. It says he has wasted the master's money. Yeah. And now it's time to face the music. I don't know what he was doing with the money, but whatever it was mismanagement. It was wasteful. It was not wise use of the master's money. And the master finds out about it and says, you got your 2 weeks notice and then you're going to lose your job. Come on now, he calls him in, tells him we got to talk. You know it's never a good talk when your boss says we got to talk. No. And you ask them what we're talking about. No, we'll talk when you get here. We'll just talk. And he says to him, you weren't doing a good job, giving you some notice, you're going to lose this job. You got 2 weeks notice, you got to turn in that company car. You got 2 weeks notice, you can't park in that good parking spot. You got 2 weeks notice, we're going to cut you off direct deposit. You got 2 weeks notice that this job that you have, that's a good job, that you manage people and resources, you won't have that job anymore. And when it does, when he loses the job, when the job goes away, it seems like the man has only 2 options. How many options? 2 options. He has to make a living. So it's either he gets another job way below his job or he begs. Seems like the only job he could get is digging. And the Bible indicates that he's too old to dig. Come on now, you know there's some stuff, I'm too old for that. I had a friend who was talking to me and he said, you know what? I'm grown. I just realized I'm too grown for some stuff. I'm too grown to have a roommate and you take the bedroom and I sleep on. He said, I'm too grown for that now. And there's some stuff you get to the point where you say, I'm too old for that. Yeah. He said, I could dig, but I'm too old for that. I don't want to do that. My back, I got arthritis and I got all that other stuff going on. When you wake up in the morning, that's your alarm clock. He said, I'm too old to get out there and to dig. But he still has to live. So his other option is to beg. Well, see, there are no social services in that day, no unemployment check, but the man has to live. Yeah. So his other option is to beg. And he's real clear with you. I'm too proud to beg. Yeah. Come on now, you can relate to this man. Yeah. He's not, listen, I could go out there, but I'm too proud to beg, and I'm too old to dig. Yeah. So what do you do when life gives you bad options? What do you do when you feel boxed in by bad decisions? What can we learn from this low-down man today? Well, the first lesson we learn from him is to refuse to accept a bad hand. Refuse to accept a bad hand. His situation had led him to be confined to either one bad thing or another. And isn't that the story many of us hear in our lives? Our situation has confined us to either one bad option or another. See, because you're from this zip code, you're either going to be hooked on drugs or you're going to end up in prison. Those are your options. Because your parents live this way, either you'll be a dropout or a low achiever. Those are your options. Because of the circumstances of your birth, you'll end up repeating the cycle. That is your option. And this man shows us that you don't have to accept the options that life seemingly dishes out to you. Because life tells you that these are your options. You're either going to prison or you'll end up on drugs. And you can say, I refuse to accept those as my options.
Yes. Yes.
See, so many of us are making bad decisions because we feel they're our only decision. Some of us are stuck in a cycle of bad decisions because we feel those are our only choices. I can only choose bad or worse, so I don't want to choose worse, so I pick bad. And this man teaches us that you can refuse to accept the hand that you're dealt. Some of us feel either I'm lonely or I'm staying in a bad relationship. Those are my options. Some people feel either I sleep with her or him or they're gone and I'm all alone and I won't have anyone and I'll be by myself for the rest of my life. And we feel those are our options. And we allow people and circumstances to box us into bad decisions. Who am I talking to today? You see, I believe this man who isn't good is teaching us some lessons for living life. And he teaches us a lesson that you don't have to choose between two bad things. You can refuse to accept the bad options. He decided he wasn't going down without a fight. He decided he wasn't rolling over and playing dead. He decided he wasn't giving up without a struggle. He decided he wasn't throwing in the towel before the last round. He decided he wasn't just going down under. He decided, I'm not going out like this. I've got to refuse to accept these bad options. So I'm too old to date, and I'm too proud to beg. So the first thing he did is he refused to accept the bad options. But the second thing he did, which will bless us, is he used the resources he had. Somebody say resources. He used the resources he had. Jesus is teaching us, and he needs us to get this, and he wants you to get this, and he wants you to use what you have. See, there's one thing I wish we could all realize every day, is that God is calling us to use what we have. If there's one thing I wish we would wake up in the morning with on our minds, is that God is calling me to use what I have. What I wish that all our children could grow up understanding is I've got to use what I have. What I wish all of our young people would learn is I got to use what I have. What I wish all of our young adults would know is I got to use what I have. What I wish all our parents and our seniors would know is I got to use what I have. I wish all of us as a church together would realize I've got to use what I have. Because many times we're locked in, we're fixated, we're stuck on what I don't have.
Amen.
This man doesn't seem to have his own home because it says he wants to be invited into people's home. He doesn't seem to have that $1,000 emergency fund saved up. He, like most of us, is living paycheck to paycheck. We celebrate when the check comes, and we're looking for the next one. That's his life. And there was a lot that he didn't have that he didn't focus on. He could have focused on a lot of stuff that he didn't have. He could have looked at what he used to have. Stay with me. He was young once, so maybe he could have done digging before, but he doesn't have youth on his side anymore. He once had the favor of his boss, but that's gone now. And sometimes we're so focused on what we lost that we can't see what we still have. Sometimes you and I are so focused on what we've lost that we cannot appreciate what we still have. Sometimes we're so stuck on who walked out that we missed who stayed around. Sometimes we're down on what we don't have anymore that we miss what we still have in our hands. And this man helps us to realize that all of us still have something. I don't care what life has taken from you. I don't care what you lost. I don't care who's walked away. God has said you still have something, and you've got to appreciate and to use what you have. And so this man says, I'm too old to date, and I'm too proud to beg, so I'm going to use what I have to get what I want. And the first resource he used was what was in him. Someone say in. He used what was in him. Look at verse 3 and verse 4. It says in verse 4, I have decided what to do. I have decided what to do. I have decided what I'll do. I don't know if you saw it. He's using what's in him. And I know you missed it because I missed it too. See, they could take his job, but they can't take his brain. You can take away my work, but you can't take away what I used to create that work. I walked away from a job, and on my last day on the job, they called me in and they said, because you're leaving, we need to take everything off your computer, because it was a work computer that we're giving you, because the computer's old enough. They said, we're going to take everything off the computer. Everything. They didn't warn me. Because if they warned me, I'd have backed that thing up at home. But they took everything off the computer. And I walked away with an empty computer and blank documents, you know. And I thought to myself, man, I don't have all this stuff I produced while I was here. That's a lot of resources. That's a lot of spreadsheets. That's a lot of budgets. That's a lot of templates. That's a lot of work. But I realized something. When I walked out that day, they didn't take my mind. And so the stuff that I used to create what they took, I still had it inside of me. And the man said, you can take my job, but I still got a mind and I can think to come up with another solution. Because all of us have something on the inside. The man used his mind, the man used his smarts, he used his wits, he used what was in him. And somebody should get excited because God always asks people to check what they have on the inside. Comes to Moses, says, Moses, what's in your hand? I know you're going up against Pharaoh and he has an army and you feel you've got nothing, but what's in your hand? He comes to a widow and she says, I've got nothing. And Elijah comes and she says, I have nothing. And Elijah says, what's in your house? Because everyone has something on the inside, and all of us have resources that we can use, and we can use what's in us. Somebody say it. Yeah. See, the lesson this is teaching us is to use what's in us. Use your gifts, use your talents, use your skill, use your mind, use your creativity. Because you've never been creative like when you don't have something. You've never made a creative meal or a good meal until your pantry is low. Come on now. There's some stuff you have made in your house that you never knew those two things should go together or would taste as good as it tasted. There's some stuff on the inside of you when you're down and you have nothing, that it releases a creativity on the inside that you never knew you had. And sometimes all it takes is you got to say, what do I have in me?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Unless you forget, it says in the Word of God that greater is He that's in me than he that's in the world. So you got creativity inside of you. You've got wisdom inside of you. You've got skill inside of you. And you've got the same power that raised Christ from the dead inside of you. You've got some resources in you. You've got some stuff to work with. So the man refused to accept the hand he was dealt. And he began to look at the resources he had, and he started with what was in him. See, you and I have got more resources than we think. So this man uses what was in him. And then he uses what was around him. Someone say around. Around. See, he didn't want to beg. And he needed a soft place to land. He needed a soft place to land. He used the creativity inside of him, and then he looked around him. And someone, as he's looking around, and here's what's important. Many times, we might feel like we're all alone. See, that's what life does. It boxes you into two bad decisions, boxes you into one bad decision, and then it tells you you're in this fight all by yourself. You're locked in, and you feel I can only choose bad or worse. I can only choose devil or deep blue sea. I can only choose being boxed into this thing, and you feel I'm here in this fight all by myself. But this man teaches us to look around us. Who do I know? Who am I connected with? Who's on my side? He looked around him to figure out who could help him. And as he works a plan to build a village, I said build a village. He works a plan to create some options for himself. He works a plan to make some new friends. See, you may not like his methods. You may not like his methods, but he is teaching us something important. You cannot live life alone. You may not like his methods of slashing the debt, bringing it down to appease someone, but he understood something. You cannot live life alone. You need a little help from your friends sometimes. We all need somebody to lean on. And he understood it takes a village to live life. Not just raise a child. It takes a village to live life. And he realized that he didn't have connections at that moment. So in the time he had, he said, I'm going to make some connections. Don't you realize that you have resources all around you? Look around you. Every person sitting here is a resource for you. See, sometimes we don't make connections, but our greatest blessings come in the people that we know. And this man uses what's in him, and he uses what's around him in order to create for himself some options. Someone say options. He said, I don't like the options I have, so I'm going to use what I have to make some new options. I'm going to use what's in me. I'm going to reach out and use what's around me. I'm going to make some friends. Come on now, you know when you help people out, you make a friend for life. He said, listen, if I just help you out, we're friends. And he created connections. And some of us don't have to do that. We already have connections. Some of us already have friends. Some of us already have family. And some of us are going through some difficult stuff. And we need to reach out to our friends. Some of us need to lean on someone else. Some of us need to talk to someone else. Some of us need to share with someone else and stop living life all alone.
Yes, yes.
So this man uses what's in him, uses what's around him, and finally he uses what's above him. Someone say above him. Okay. Hopefully this blesses somebody today. He uses what's above him. He was being put out of the job. He was being let go from his job. He was being terminated from his job. His position was being removed. They were not keeping that position. Whatever nice word you want to use for the man was being fired. But he wasn't fired yet. He was being fired, but he wasn't gone yet. So he still has a company card. He still has access to the list of debtors. He still had the ability to call people, watch this, on behalf of the boss. He's not calling them as Joe Blow. He is calling them as Joe who works for the master. He was able to use the boss's name. He came in the name of the one that was above him. You may not like what he did when he called them, but he came in the name of the one who was above him. He goes to people and he sits with them and he says, I'm going to cut your bill. And the reason I can cut your bill is because I'm connected to the one that's above me. He says I can do something for you to relieve your debt. And the reason I can do that is because I'm connected to the man that's above me. The reason I can do something to help you out today is because I still work for the man that's above me. And maybe today you have looked on the inside and you haven't found enough. And you've looked around you and you haven't found enough. But praise be to God, you are connected to the one that's above all. You're connected to the one that's in control. And when you feel you're out of resources, know that you're connected to the one that has it all in his hands. Don't you know that you serve the God who makes planets in his spare time? Don't you know you serve the God who rules the universe? Don't you know you serve the one who is above all gods? You are connected to the one that's above. And the man understands that in the moments when you feel like you've got nothing and you're ready to choose a bad decision, You don't have to choose that because you're connected to the one that's above. You don't have to pick the bad choice. You don't have to do it. You don't have to give it. You don't have to give up because you're connected to the one that's above.
Yeah.
This man who ain't right is teaching us some lessons because he understands that I can refuse the hand that I'm dealt. I don't have to let society define me. I don't have to let the world define me. I don't have to let statistics define me. Yes, people in my place do this stuff, but I'm not going to do it. I don't have to let stuff box me in. I'm not going to pick the bad choice. I'm going to refuse to play the hand that you dealt me.
Yeah.
But he also says, I'm going to use the resources I have on my side. Maybe there's somebody today you recognize, I've got more on my side than I ever thought. Because the God we serve is the God who is for us, not against us.
Yes.
Man, come on, look at this passage. The same master who he defrauded ends up being on his side. He says, I give you props.
Yeah.
Game recognized game. I'm on your side because you used what you had. And God is saying, more than that, I'm on your side. I'm on your side. I'm on your side. And so I'm talking to somebody today. You feel that you're in a bad place and you've got only bad choices in front of you. I don't know what your thing is. I don't know what your thing is, but I know you got to think because I got to think. I got something when I look at it and I say, man, I've got to do that because I don't have any other choice. God is saying, use what you got to get what you want. You don't have to give into that thing. You don't have to go back into that bad relationship. You do not have to go back to that bad. You do not have to stay in that place. You don't have to give up. And you don't have to do it anymore. You can use what you have that's on the inside and around you and above you, and you don't have to beg. The reason I don't have to beg, I'm too proud to beg, but I don't have to because I've got resources on my side. See somebody else in here today that you want to use what you have to get what you want. If you're here with me, I want to invite you to stand. Somebody you recognize, I've got more in me, I've got more around me, I've got more above me than I ever imagined. I'm going to use what I have to get what I want. I'm going into my job situation, and maybe I feel boxed in, but I'm going to use what's in me, my creativity. I'm going to use the connections around me. I'm going to use the God that's above me. Maybe there's somebody you feel trapped in a bad situation, and you don't know your way out. You say, I'm going to use what's in me, what's around me, and what's above me.
Yes, Lord.
While you're standing, allow me to say this. Did the Lord impress this message on me? For me first, then to share with you. Because here's where I am. Y'all with me? One of the things I've been struggling with as a pastor, I'm going to just be honest, is because our resources financially at our church have gone down. And it's stuff you say, man, I want to do more we want to do more in our community. We want to bless our community. But then I started feeling, and I'm just going to be real with you, we can't do the stuff we want to do because we don't have the money. And I realized we just box ourselves in to two options. Either we get all the money or we do nothing. Either we get all the money, and when we get all the money, then we do something, or we do nothing. And God is saying, no, you got another option. You got stuff in you as a church. Y'all got connections around you. And more than that, you've got a God above you. And so as a church, we're not going to stay stuck anymore. As a leader, I don't want to stay stuck anymore because God has put more in us, more around us, and more above us than we can ever imagine. Look at this man. He did everything he did for the wrong reasons, all for himself. But everything we do, our reason is so much more because we serve a great God. And his reward was so much less than ours. People receive them into their homes. Our reward is so much greater. We've got an eternal home. So if this man could use what he had, what's in him, what's around him, and what's above him, how much more should the children of light use what they have? Father, in the name of Jesus, God, I pray that you would move through us individually. Because, God, we feel boxed in at time and we live just choosing between bad and worse. And, God, show someone today, I don't have to choose that. I don't have on my school, I don't have in my school to choose whether I do one wrong thing or the other. God, show them they've got another choice. God, in some relation, somebody's boxed into a bad relationship. Show them, God, they've got another choice. God, someone is hooked on something to cope with life. Show them, God, they have another choice. And God, show us as a church what you're calling us to do. And that we have another choice. God, we thank you. We thank you that even if we're too proud to beg, we don't have to. So we can use what we have to get what we want. So in the name of Jesus we pray. Amen. Amen.